The crowd inside the convocation hall roared like thunder and kept clapping. Cameras flashed, and the voice of the announcer shook the air. And the award for the best graduating student of the Department of Mass Communication goes to Adanma, OBI. For a second, the world stood still. Then the hall erupted in cheers. Students clapped, lecturers smiled, parents screamed with pride. Adanma, dressed in her graduation gown, walked slowly to the stage. Her eyes glistened with tears, her lips trembling as she received the golden plaque. The young woman who once hawked detergent in the streets of Owerri now stood tall, celebrated as the brightest star of her set. But miles away, in a small compound in Imo State, a different sound filled the air. Ruth, Adanma's stepmother, who had once sworn that Adanma would never make it in life, sat by her shop with a small radio pressed to her ear. Her wrapper was loose, her hair uncombed. She wasn't expecting much from the broadcast. She only wanted to distract herself while she counted her meager earnings. Then she heard it. Best graduating student, Adanma OBI. The radio slipped from her hand. Her eyes rolled back. With a heavy thud, Ruth collapsed to the ground. Neighbors rushed in, shouting, "Jesus! Mama Kingsley! What is it?" They poured water on her face, fanned her with wrappers, shook her arms. Minutes later, she coughed, gasped for breath, and opened her eyes. But the shame in her chest was heavier than any sickness, because the name that had just shaken the whole school, the name on every tongue, was the same girl she had once starved, beaten, and sent into the streets with a tray on her head. Her stepdaughter, Adanma. The story began years earlier, when Adanma's world was still bright, before wickedness turned her childhood into ashes. Adanma was born into joy. Her mother, Kayjee, was the kind of woman whose laughter filled a house like music. Her father, Obi, was a cocoa trader, always traveling, always working hard. But whenever he returned, he brought gifts, biscuits, toys, even little dresses, and he would lift Adanma high into the air, calling her the jewel of my crown. Life was sweet, until sickness came like a thief. One night, Nkechi's body burned with fever. The cough followed, then weakness, then endless hospital visits. Within months, the woman who used to dance in the kitchen while cooking jollof rice was lying on a bed, her voice faint. On her last night alive, she held Adanma's hand tightly. "My Ada," she whispered, "life will test you. People may hate you, but never forget who you are. You must rise, no matter what happens." At dawn, Kayjee was gone. Obi wept like a broken child. Adanma, only 5, felt her world collapse. The house that once echoed with laughter became cold and quiet. For 3 years, Obi tried to raise Adanma alone. He loved her, but work took him away often. And soon, his relatives began to pressure him. "A man cannot stay without a wife," they told him. "Who will care for the girl? Who will cook for you?" Reluctantly, Obi agreed. And that was when Ruth entered their lives. The first day Ruth came, she pretended to be kind. She bought Adanma meat pie, rubbed her hair, and smiled at Obi like a dutiful wife. Everyone said Obi was lucky, but masks do not last forever. Soon after the traditional marriage, Ruth's true color appeared. She was cold, harsh, and full of envy. When Obi sent money for Adanma's school fees, Ruth pocketed it. Teachers chased Adanma from class. When Obi asked, Ruth lied. The girl is lazy. She doesn't want to study. When Obi opened a mini shop for Ruth in front of their house, she forced Adanma to hawk detergent, sugar, and Milo in the hot Sunday. When Adanma returned hungry, Ruth denied her food. Did you drop all the money? She would bark. Yes, Adanma whispered. Then go and wash plates. Don't touch that pot of soup. Adanma often sneaked into the neighbor's house, begging for leftover rice. Ruth gave Obi 2 more children, Kingsley and Adora. Kingsley, the boy, loved Adanma. He would sneak her bread when Ruth wasn't looking. Adora, however, was a copy of her mother, wicked, mocking, always laughing at Adanma's suffering. One evening, Adora smirked and said, "When I enter university, I'll be big. You'll still be carrying Omo on your head." Adanma's heart bled, but she kept silent. One hot afternoon, with a tray of Milo balanced on her head, Adanma heard a voice. "Adanma, is this you?" She turned. Standing there was Chidera, her old classmate from secondary school. Chidera's neat dress, polished shoes, and sparkling iPhone made her look like she had stepped out of another world. Adanma felt her heart sink. Shame burned her cheeks. She wanted to hide her tray, to run away, but Chidera rushed forward and hugged her tightly. "It's really you," Chidera said, smiling brightly. "My goodness, you haven't changed at all. I was just telling my driver that I might see some of my old mates today. And here you are." Adanma's lips trembled. She managed a weak smile, but her eyes filled with tears. How could she explain the years of pain, the hunger, the hawking? Chidera studied her closely, her smile fading into concern. "Adanma, what happened? You were always among the best in class. Why are you hawking on the road?" Adanma swallowed hard, her throat tight. She wanted to speak, but words refused to come. Chidera sighed softly, almost as if she already knew. She placed a gentle hand on Adanma's shoulder. "Don't worry, we will talk," she said. "I'm not going anywhere. I want to know everything." Her words felt like a small light in the middle of Adanma's dark world. For the first time in years, Adanma felt seen not as a house girl, not as Ruth's victim, but as herself. That night, lying on her mat, Adanma remembered Chidera's eyes, full of concern. A tiny spark of hope flickered inside her chest. Maybe, just maybe, my story is not over yet, she whispered to the darkness. Days turned into weeks, but the memory of meeting Chidera refused to leave Adanma's heart. Whenever she closed her eyes, she saw that concerned look in her old classmate's eyes. A look that said, "You don't belong here." But reality was merciless. Every morning, Ruth's voice thundered through the compound. "Adanma, carry that tray and go out now. Don't come back until everything is sold." Under the burning sun, Adanma kept hawking Milo, detergent, and peak milk. Sometimes people pitied her and bought. Other times they ignored her completely. One Saturday afternoon, while Ruth was away at a women's meeting, Adanma heard a soft knock on the gate. She opened it, and there was Chidera standing tall, her car parked outside. "Adanma," she said with a smile, "I told you we would talk." Adanma's heart raced. She quickly pulled her inside before Ruth's neighbors could see. The two girls sat in the corner of the sitting room, whispering like old friends. Chidera listened as Adanma poured out her story, the unpaid school fees, the hawking, the hunger, the fear of Ruth. When she finished, Chidera's eyes were wet. "Adanma, this is too much. You were one of the brightest in class. You deserve a future." Adanma shook her head sadly. "How? My stepmother will never allow it. My father trusts her lies. I am trapped." Chidera leaned closer. "No one is trapped forever. Listen. Admission forms for the Polytechnic are out. Have you thought of applying?" Adanma's chest tightened. "Yes, but where will I get the money? Even if I get it, Madam Ruth will destroy the form." Chidera looked at her firmly. "Don't worry about that. I'll handle it. Just promise me you won't give up." Adanma felt tears sting her eyes. For the first time in years, someone spoke to her as if she mattered. She nodded quickly. "I promise." A week later, Chidera gave her the money secretly enough for the Polytechnic form and transport. Adanma hid it carefully inside her school books, praying Ruth would never find it. But wickedness has sharp eyes. One evening, while Adanma was fetching water, Ruth ransacked her room and found the form receipt. Her scream shook the house. "Adanma!" she roared, and angry as she entered. "So you think you can be clever? You think you can use my husband's money to go to school? Over my dead body!" She tore the paper into pieces and flung it in Adanma's face. "You are nothing but a house girl in this family. If I ever see you try this again, I will throw you out of this house naked." Adanma collapsed on the floor, her body trembling, her tears soaking the torn paper. Adaora stood at the doorway, smirking. "Didn't I tell you? You will never be more than a hawker." Kingsley, unable to bear it, slipped into the room later that night. He touched Adanma's shoulder gently. "Don't give up, sister. You're not meant to end like this. One day, you'll shine." His words comforted her, but the pain was heavy. That night, she cried herself to sleep. The next morning, Ruth thought she had crushed Adanma's spirit. She ordered her to carry a heavy tray of provisions and leave the house. But fate had other plans. As Adanma walked the streets, head bowed, she almost collided with a car that stopped suddenly in front of her. The glass rolled down. It was Chidera. Seeing the tears on her friend's face, Chidera pulled over immediately. "Adanma, what happened?" Through sobs, Adanma told her everything: the form, Ruth's beating, the shredded receipt. Chidera's eyes blazed with anger. "No, this will not end here. I will not watch your life waste away. I'll tell my dad to take the full responsibility for your admission. Stop crying, my dear friend." Adanma froze, overwhelmed. "But Ruth will kill me if she finds out." Ava oaths. Chidera smiled gently. "Then she won't find out. Some destinies cannot be stopped. Yours is one of them." From that day, Chidera became Adanma's secret angel. She got back home and told her dad about Adanma. Without hesitation, her father agreed to handle the registration, paid for the acceptance fee, and made sure Adanma got all the information she needed. Adanma would sneak out at dawn, pretending to hawk, but instead, she would go to the Polytechnic for registration and lectures. It wasn't easy. She studied with hunger in her belly. Sometimes she begged for food from her course mate. She often wore the same clothes, drawing pity from classmates. But her brain shone like fire. Her lecturers noticed. Her course mates respected her. While Ruth thought she had clipped her wings, Adanma was quietly building a future behind her back. One night, as she lay on her mat after finishing her first semester exams, she whispered into the darkness, "Mama, your daughter is still standing. They tried, but they could not break me." And for the first time in a long while, she slept with a smile. The news came like a whisper across the Polytechnic campus. "Have you seen that girl Adanma? She's always topping the class." "Yes, the one with only 2 pairs of clothes. I heard she doesn't even eat sometimes." Each time Adanma tried to talk to her father Obi, he always tell, Ruth go and meet Ruth. She will handle it better." People watched her with awe, not pity. In her eyes burned something rare, a fire that no hunger, no insult, no wicked stepmother could quench. But back at home, Ruth was blind to it all. Adara had once laughed at Adanma, saying, "You never go to school while I become a lawyer or a doctor." But pride has a way of melting. She gained admission into a university. True, she strutted around the compound with her admission letter, mocking Adanma every chance she got. But just one semester later, Adara's world turned upside down. She returned home, her stomach swollen not from food, but from pregnancy. The boy who promised her heaven vanished like smoke. Ruth wept bitterly, not because of Adara's shame, but because the news spread quickly in the neighborhood. People whispered, "So the woman who maltreats her husband's daughter cannot control her own child." Ruth locked Adara inside the house for weeks, but the truth was already dancing on every street corner. Meanwhile, Adanma, the one she despised, was moving quietly from one success to another. Kingsley had always been kinder to Adanma than Adora was. He sometimes gave her food, sometimes shielded her from Ruth's insults. But when he entered the university, he let bad company ruin him. Parties, alcohol, girls he drowned in them all. One night, the call came. Kingsley had been rusticated. The shame nearly killed Obi, Adanma's father. "Kingsley, Kingsley!" he shouted in despair. "I gave you everything. Why would you throw your life away?" Kingsley could only bow his head, guilt crushing him. And Ruth? She wailed and cursed, but deep inside, bitterness grew. Both of her children, her pride had fallen. All the while, Adanma kept her secret. Her lectures, her tests, her victories. Ruth never suspected. Sometimes, when Ruth sent her to hawk, she would pass by the Polytechnic gate, hiding her books in the bottom of her tray. She learned how to live with one leg in the fire and the other in the stream. But destiny was stubborn. You cannot hide the sun forever. One afternoon, Obi returned home earlier than usual from his cocoa trip. As he sat in front of the house, he saw something that froze him. Adanma came walking down the street, holding books from the Polytechnic. Adanma, come here. Her heart jumped. She thought Ruth's lies would now ruin everything. But Obi looked at her with suspicion, not anger. Where are you coming from? Her lips trembled. Papa, from school. School? Which school? For the first time, she told her father everything: how Ruth denied her education, how Chidera helped, how she had been secretly studying. Obi's face turned pale. He sank into his chair, both hands on his head. So, Ruth, all these years, that night, Obi did not eat. He just sat silently, replaying every moment in his head. The next morning, he called Ruth. His voice was thunder. Ruth, is it true that you have been lying to me all these years? That my daughter has been suffering, hawking, starving, while you deceived me that she is unserious? Ruth trembled, but her tongue was sharp. Obi, don't mind that girl. She is manipulating you. She is ungrateful. But for the first time, Obi saw through her. His silence was heavy. His eyes avoided hers, and from that day, their marriage was never the same. By her third year, Adanma was a star in her department. She represented the Polytechnic in competitions. She won awards. Her name appeared in newspapers, though she always hid them before Ruth saw. But the neighborhood knew. Women whispered at the borehole. That girl Ruth maltreated. See how she's shining now. Others shook their heads. This life, eh? You can never stop destiny. Adanma walked with humility, greeting everyone, never showing pride. But inside her heart, she carried a burning prayer. Mama, I will make you proud. No matter what, I will make you proud. Ruth watched as her own children sank deeper into regret Adora with a child she could not care for, Kingsley roaming aimlessly after rustication. And every time she looked at Adanma, something inside her boiled. Why should she be the one to succeed? Why not my own blood? But deep inside, fear began to gnaw at her. Fear that the very girl she had tried to bury would one day rise so high that she, Ruth, would be left in the dust. She had no idea destiny had already begun its final dance. The evening air in Owerri was heavy with silence. Obi sat on the old wooden chair in front of the house, his eyes fixed on Adanma. She had just returned from school, her books clutched tightly to her chest. For the first time, Obi truly looked at her, really looked. Her shoes were worn thin, her gown patched, and yet her face shone with brilliance. His heart twisted. How could I have been so blind? He remembered Nkechi's last words before she died. Take care of our daughter. Don't let her suffer. But he had failed. Tears gathered in Obi's eyes. He called her softly. Adanma. She came closer, nervous, expecting another argument stirred by Ruth. But instead, Obi reached into his pocket and brought out a bundle of notes. He pressed it into her hand. From today, you will never lack again. You are my daughter. Forgive me for the years I let you suffer. Adanma froze, unable to speak. She had dreamt of this moment but never believed it would come. Obi stood up and placed his hands on her shoulders. His voice broke. I am sorry, my child. I failed you, but no more. From today, every money meant for you will pass through my hand to yours. No one will stand in between us again." Her tears fell freely, but this time, they were not tears of pain, they were tears of healing. True to his word, Obi began to send money directly to Adanma. He took her to the market himself, bought her new dresses, proper shoes, and a bag worthy of a student. The first day, she stepped into her department, wearing neat clothes, heads turned. Her classmates whispered, "Is this the same Adanma? She looks like a queen now." Confidence bloomed in her heart. No longer did she have to shrink into shadows. She walked tall, her books in hand, her head held high. At home, however, Ruth fumed like a pot left too long on fire. She watched Obi's sudden devotion to Adanma with bitter jealousy. She spat one night as she confronted him. "So this is what you are doing now? Abandoning me and my children for that girl?" Obi's eyes, usually soft with patience, turned like steel. "That girl is my daughter, my first child, and I will not watch you destroy her any longer." One Sunday afternoon, Obi dressed neatly and told Adanma to follow him. They drove to the grand compound of the Okafor's Chidera's family. The gate opened, and they entered into a world of wealth. Cars parked in their compound, flowers bloomed on both sides. Obi's heart thudded with both shame and gratitude. When Chidera's father, Chief Okafor, welcomed them, Obi fell to his knees before the man. "Sir, I am ashamed. I did not know the treasure I had. While I was blind, it was you and your daughter who carried my own child. May God bless you forever." Chief Okafor, moved by the humility, lifted Obi up. "No, my brother, the glory is still ahead. Your daughter is a shining star. Let us only keep supporting her." Adanma's eyes filled with tears. To see her father bow in gratitude for her sake was a healing she had never imagined. That day marked a new chapter. Obi not only became supportive, but also prouder than ever. He would often say loudly in the compound, "Adanma is the pride of this family. She will go farther than I ever dreamed." Neighbors began to respect her openly. Some even whispered, if Ruth had known, she would have treated her well. But inside the house, Ruth burned with bitterness. The love and respect she once commanded from Obi had disappeared. At night, when she tried to speak sweetly to him, he would turn away. When she tried to discuss money, he ignored her. When she tried to complain about Adanma, his voice thundered, "Don't mention her name with your venom again." The woman who once strutted with power now walked with a shadow of defeat. By her final year, Adanma was unstoppable. She had not only passed all her courses with excellence, but she had also led her department. Her name had become a symbol of hope. The girl who rose from hawking Milo and matches to becoming a beacon of brilliance. Obi watched her in wonder. Every chance he got, he told people, "That is my daughter. That is Kayjee's child." Sometimes he would sit alone at night, staring at the sky. "Kayjee, my love, I failed for a while, but I have corrected my mistake. Our daughter will carry your name beyond the stars." The atmosphere in the house grew unbearable. Every conversation ended in quarrel. Sometimes Ruth would mutter curses under her breath. Sometimes she would throw things around in anger, but deep inside, she knew she was losing. Her own children were drowning. The girl she had tried to bury was becoming a queen. And worse, her husband now looked at her, not with love, but with disgust. Night after night, Ruth lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her heart filled with regret she dared not confess. She didn't know it yet, but the day of her humiliation was fast approaching. The day when the whole of Imo State would hear Adanma's name, and that name would bring Ruth to her knees. The convocation hall of Imo State Polytechnic glittered with color. Parents, students, lecturers all came dressed in their finest. The school band played. The air was thick with excitement, and everywhere buzzed with laughter and pride. In the front row of the parents sat Obi, dressed neatly in a flowing white kaftan. His eyes never left his daughter. Beside him sat Chief Okafor, tall and commanding, his agbada shimmering under the lights. Next to him was Chidera, radiant and smiling, her hands clasped together in joy for her friend. Together, they looked like one family, one united front. Noticeably absent was Ruth. Pride and bitterness had chained her at home. She had refused to come, saying coldly, "I will not sit there and clap for the girl who wants to disgrace me." But destiny doesn't need everyone present. It shines even brighter without those who try to bury it. The rector stepped onto the stage, microphone in hand. The hall fell silent. Ladies and gentlemen, today we celebrate excellence. Today we honor resilience. The award for the best graduating student in the Department of Mass Communication goes to a pause. The hall held its breath. Miss Adanma Obi. The room exploded in cheers. Students screamed, lecturers clapped, parents stood on their feet. Obi shot up, tears running freely down his face. He clapped so hard his palms stung. "That's my daughter, my Adanma." Chidera hugged Chief Okafor tightly, both of them grinning with pride. Adanma rose, her graduation gown swaying as she walked to the stage. She tried to hold back tears, but they betrayed her, sliding down her cheeks. As she received her certificate and a golden plaque, she lifted her eyes toward the sky. "Mama, this is for you." The applause seemed endless, echoing through her bones. For the first time in her life, she felt fully seen, not as a hawker, not as Ruth's victim, but as Adanma, the shining star. Meanwhile, at the graduation reception, Obi held his daughter's hand like a trophy. His voice was thick with emotion. "Adanma, you have wiped away my shame. You have brought honor to my house, and your mother smiles from heaven. Forgive me for the years I failed you. From today, the world will know you are my pride." Chief Okafor raised his glass of wine, his baritone voice carrying weight. "To Adanma prove that no wickedness can bury destiny. May her light never dim." Everyone clapped. Chidera hugged her friend tightly. "You did it, Ada. I told you you were never meant to remain in the shadows." Adanma smiled through her tears. "I couldn't have done this without you. You were the friend who saw me when no one else did." Together they laughed, their joy filling the air. Later that night, Ruth sat alone in her dark room. The sound of drums and laughter floated from Obi's compound, where the celebration was still going strong. Her eyes were hollow, her face streaked with dried tears. Adaura sat quietly with her baby. Kingsley leaned against the wall, lost in thought. The house felt heavy, suffocating. Ruth whispered to herself. Her voice cracked with pain. I destroyed myself with my own hands. I thought I was punishing her, but it is me who is punished. I should have treated her like my own. Now my children, my pride, have fallen. And the girl I hated has become the child I wish they could be. She pressed her hands against her face, sobbing bitterly. The truth was now carved deep in her heart. She had not just maltreated Adanma, she had fought destiny, and destiny had won. Life has a way of rewarding patience and punishing cruelty. Adanma's story reminds us that no matter how deep life buries you, destiny will always find its way to the light. Ruth tried to destroy her, but she only watered the seed of greatness. To everyone watching, never let anyone convince you that your current struggle is your final story. Keep fighting, keep believing, and one day your name will be called where it truly matters. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.